the aim of this room was literally a place to have a conversation. I think the challenge for me is explaining what we're trying to do in a way that fits other people's perceptions and boxes, and definitely potential partners. And it sometimes feels like a cliche that we have to focus on one part, which misses the wider elements of what we're doing. But this is really just a room where I'm going to throw it open for any questions and conversations, and we just see where the conversations go. And I'm hoping to learn more from the conversation than anyone else on the call. This is the embarrassing silence bit. So I hope someone steps up and shares a comment, or if not, I'll pick on someone, because there's people on here I'd love to hear from. Hi, Jess.
I just, that was so brilliant to listen to what you've been up to. I've known Dina for quite a while and mainly seen her at locality conventions once a year. And it's just been so brilliant this year against all the horrors that we've had to experience. The one brilliant thing has been bringing people together from different places. So it's so exciting to hear properly what's going on rather than just have a quick chat at the bar. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to sort of put forward to help at all because I'm really busy, like we all are, but really busy up until September trying to finish writing up a thesis. But I've said to Dana I'd love to help after that, and so I suppose I'm kind of interested in what you've got this fantastic support network already. Are there sort of particular aspects that are not necessarily missing, but aspects that you need more, you feel you need more advice or support or lessons from elsewhere? Anything that you're not sure about that you'd like to pick other people's brains on?
I think the list of what we're not sure about would take a long time. I think both, as you'll know from knowing Dina, she's not backward in connecting with people who she thinks can help. And if you've ever, I have a verb called being Dina'd. Not sure if that's a verb, but so anyone that's in her session has probably been volunteered to get involved in something. I think the three challenges in my head at the moment. One is the track record of this, that we are, it's almost like show us your first building or project. And we will talk to people about amazing stuff happening on the South Coast. We'll talk about all the good work Locality and Power to Change do, and Co-ops UK and sharing good practice, but it's not part of the local perception. And tied to that is, I think we scare people with our ambition. And I think there's a credibility gap. So I think that it's that finding the way to tell our story in a way that excites but doesn't scare people and builds our credibility. And my big frustration is all of the strategic partners, funders, where they're saying that's great, but it doesn't quite fit what we want. It doesn't, you're not fitting into our pigeonholes. I think the other interesting element for me that was a core part of this from the beginning was there's areas of deprivation in the area, but we're not a deprived area. And I mean economic deprivation. Obviously, we have a strengths-based approach. And it's trying to prove how you can make change happen where you have a council that's not taking the lead and is slightly skeptical and has a very old-fashioned view of regeneration, where there's not a strong community sector, but there's loads of passionate people. And that is the challenge we've set ourselves. So I'm not sure if I've answered your question, but that felt like a little context setting.
Really interesting, thank you.
Hi, Ian. Naseem
Hi.
Qureshi. I run an organization called Inspired Neighbors in Bradford.
Oh, yes.
Interesting to hear from you guys. I think listening to you just now, my only advice would be don't be scared of your ambition. I think it's really, really important that is strong and large from community up. Because and the other thing about the funders, and I think the funding scene and investment scene is now changing. In my experience, it is more relationship based now, and we made a conscious decision about 2 years ago not to put application for grants willy-nilly. And I think what we do at the moment is we pick up the phone to commissioners and grant providers where in the area we want to focus in, and we start the conversation. And I think being brave is important to say, look, we won't waste your time if you don't waste ours. Yeah, because the resources are scarce at the moment. Nobody can sit and just keep on writing the bids and stuff. So I think to be brave and pick up the phone and speaking to them and getting that first direction is really, really, really important. And your connectivity is amazing. You know, something I would aspire to do. Thank you.
And I think I'm very conscious that our PR is probably running slightly ahead. We've sold the sizzle slightly more than the sausage,
All right.
you know, vegetarian or otherwise. So if you like, I'm the more reluctant on the selling the sizzle side, but I think it's got us where we have. The pace we've moved at has been driven by that.
Yeah.
I think, were you part of the local access program
Yes,
bids?
we are. Yes, we're on third stage.
Congratulations. I remember
Thank you.
listening to your presentation, I think in Birmingham.
Thank you. Yeah, we're on third stage. We are submitting that in June. Just on communication and marketing, right? We made right bollocks of that and in our organization, because we never invested money in it, never told our story really. And I think that was a mistake. So I wouldn't be shy about singing your praises. And I think the more the people know, the more you've got a better chance. And we are now realizing that we need to change that. So we are developing our own strategy to do that and do it aggressively. And that will be my experience of that.
That's great. Thank you. Hi,
I
Nikki.
think I can say that we probably scare people a little bit, don't we? Because we're very passionate.
Join the club.
And we do. And you know, I'm part of the Kickstart scheme. I've got a young lady with me. I'm hoping to take on another one very soon. But we don't stroll at this. We've got a very fast walk. And that's because Dina's behind us, pushing us most of the time, going, get on with it and let's do this, you know. And she's right. We need to get on and do it. If you hang back and allow reluctant councils to dictate to you at what pace to go, we wouldn't get anywhere in 15 years. So, you know, hats off to Dina. You know, some people find her very much in your face. I think you can say, Ian, can't we? But she gets the job done. And that's all we can ask for. And we do, well, I think we do sort of come a bit in your face to people. It's not that we want to do it now, it's just that we know what we can achieve. But we need that support. And we could achieve so much more if we had local councils that supported us more. But we will get there, we will, because Dina's not going to allow us not to. She's got quite a few whips out there. And we all come together very well. We all work together very well. And I think that is a big part of it, is because we all work together very well, and we get one theme, we work on that, get a result, then we move on to the next one. But we all move on to the next one. It's not just one particular thing. So I think we work very well together. I think you'd agree, Ian. We're all very excited about getting the keys yesterday. We've got nothing in it, but we've got keys.
Yeah, I think to draw out a couple of sort of thoughts, I think this is very much has the personality of Coalville on the project, and we're trying to get the balance between sharing what we're learning, but more as have a look and take what's useful as the ingredients in a recipe than saying this is the way to do it, because this is the right approach for Coville, which has a particular personality to the community. And I think it's really important each community finds that own voice. I think Dina would be a little bit struggling with this, because she very much doesn't see it as being driven by her, and she's very keen not to be at the center of it, which is just one of the other interesting challenges. I think on the council, we have tried to be quite strategic. So we've been lobbying and trying to speak their language and engaging with them through the political level, the officers, and worked hard actually over the last few months to move the relationship on. And so we're trying to move them from being skeptical to being neutral, and we are now finding our allies in the council at each level, the political, and it's quite surprising the way it's fallen is more based around the people than the party label. And I must admit, I've had to bite my tongue on a few occasions with both members of the community and councillors, because it's about the bigger local impact rather than our own, places we're coming from. I think, I don't know, Selva, if I've pronounced that correctly, made a comment about the councils. So I don't know if there's something you want to add on that from your experience.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a terrible time really with the council and our CVS. They're just, in my experience, they're just stuck in their old ways, and as far as I can see, they don't want to change the status quo because it's easy for them. They've got it nice, and really they don't want to have to do anything. They don't really seem to care at all. So there's a group of us who really want to see our communities sort of just be able to get what we should be having, and it's not going to happen through the council. So we're just looking at different ways to go ahead and try to do it basically around them. But as you said, it's so difficult because you really do need the council on board. In our area, I just can't see it happening. They keep talking about co-production and then we'll do this and we'll do that, but they're not.
No. I think we don't want the co-production side. If they did it genuinely, obviously we'd be delighted. They have a terrible image locally, and they recognise that. This isn't me putting that on. Jess asked the political makeup, and that's an interesting dynamic for us. It's overwhelmingly conservative, but Coville and the area we're working in is a mix of Labour and Lib Dem. So it's the minority groups, but there's also a strong, this is a gross simplification, but it's the most Brexit friendly Lib Dem I've ever met. So it's an interesting mix. Ironically, the councillors who've engaged with us least are the Labour councillors. And I think there is an interesting element of how we're positioning this. So we've put enterprise, meaning independent local businesses. So my baggage is I would much rather we were setting up cooperatives and social enterprises. But we're doing a lot of work to support anyone who wants to set up their own independent business. And as long as the money staying locally, then we're pretty much happy to work with people.
But can I just say, being a local business owner, I'm trying to encourage people in their own business. When I relocate, I will have 4 local businesses within my cafe because it was an old bank. So there's 4 offices that are okay in size, but not great. But it gives everybody a chance to have a go on the high streets. So I'm trying to support them. And anybody who's wanting to start a business, I'm willing to support them with that, trying to find what goods they need, the products, finding them an accountant, showing them how to do books, and giving them the reason to give it a go. There's some great ideas out there with our Kickstarters of what they'd like to do. It's just they don't know how to take that step. So we're all there to try and help that. And I will help them as much as I can. If it means opening my cafe at night so they can showcase what they're doing, then we'll do that. Because I think your communities now are going to be based on local businesses. The big corporate places are going, you know, you've got Dorothy Perkins and Burton's is shutting now in our town. But we've got a local lady who sells some amazing ladies' clothes. She just can't get anywhere suitable to rent that's affordable. So and I did take her on for about 8 weeks in the premises, because we couldn't do any work before we got planning permission and change of use, to give her an idea of what the right location meant for her. And she's just bloomed from that. Now, if we can do that with lots of local businesses, what are we going to have in that town? It'll be quite niche and quite unique. So that's what we're trying to do. I'll even support people that are doing the same business as me, because there's enough business for everybody, you know, and we all work together. I've also come up with an idea of a local town loyalty scheme. So for every £10 you spent in a local independent business, you get a stamp. That trader puts £2.50 a month in. It's a cash prize every month. You're not going to get any sort of advertising for £2.50. But this little loyalty card, if it all stays, it gets put in, they can win the cash prize. It's a way of promoting the local businesses. The big businesses do it all themselves. You know, Costa Coffee's got all their loyalty schemes. Greggs have got theirs, blah, blah, blah. What about us? You know, let us get on board with that. And it wouldn't cost a lot to set up. It wouldn't cost a lot for each independent trader to be on that scheme. And we could all have a sticker in our window to say, you know, we're part of this. Come and join us and support us. And you could be in the chance of winning, I don't know, £50 a month, you know. So it's a way forward. And we all want to work together. We've got a great local traders community as well. And I think that is a way forward for a lot of communities. All these big companies are going to go online. So we need to step in and fill that gap if we can. So by supporting local businesses, getting them on board, getting them started, that's the way forward as I see it. And that's what part of Coalville Can is. That's why we'd like a space so that we can do that and get them, start them off in there, get them on High Street. I just think that's a great way. We've got a lot of other things we want to do as well, of course, but building a business builds a town, builds the community bigger.
Thanks, Nikki.
Kickstart programme, Ian.
Yeah.
We've got a Kickstart cluster starting soon in Hastings, and we did it with some other people in Bristol and Liverpool and Birmingham and Brighton and somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested, but in each cluster there's a number of different kind of businesses that are hosting, or charities, different organisations hosting them. Is that similar to what you've got? And
yeah.
how's it going, Toby, I suppose? I'm interested.
I'll let Toby give his view in a minute, so I won't comment on the quality of the scheme, but I'll talk about how we approached it. When it first came, we thought, how can we take advantage of this and make a difference? And reaching people, the Leicester-based BCSE consortium stepped in and said they would be the organisation to get the 30 places you needed. So we started off thinking we would have 6 young people on the crew. But then how we decided to do it was a mix of people. All of them would be employed by Think, but we then wanted to find partners who wouldn't think of taking someone on, but who we knew would treat people the right way and would invest time in it being a sustainable outcome, either with them or giving them, we with every person we talk about the transition plan, what's going to come next and how can we help you. So about half the people are working for local social enterprises, a community hub, Nikki's Calf, an animal sanctuary. So we've taken on the payroll bit. and the training element. And the way that works is 1 day a week, everyone works with Think. And then in effect, we're now using the Kickstart scheme to progress Coville Can. So we're saying, this isn't the best opportunity that you'll ever get in terms of pay, but it's not a bad opportunity where you are at the moment to have some time to make a difference in your community and plan the next step come the autumn. Toby, I don't know if you want to jump in here.
I will. I really only joined this because I wanted to look for something that included filming, and as much as I'm not really doing much at the minute, it's opened a lot of doors, because we had a woman come in from Co-op talk about starting a business, and I was thinking that'd be great. I'm young, I may as well give it a go. So I would like to start up a little film business maybe. So if filmmakers in the area they need help filming their films, they come to us. We can supply equipment, maybe funding. But also, like, I'm fresh out of college. This is technically my first job, so it was also just a good bit of money that can help me in the future.
Thanks, Toby. And I think that the filmmakers are a good example. The local Century Theatre that's owned by the council and is the last remaining travelling theatre, I believe, another reason to visit Coville, is they advertise for people to do a promotional video, and we connected a couple of the Kickstart crew with 2 local commercial film producers to do a joint bid. And whilst we failed in that bid, Century Theatre's now found a separate project, and they're now funding a project, which means that by the time we get to the autumn, the 2 members of the crew involved with that project will have added to their portfolio and will have worked alongside 2 commercial film companies. We've not asked for a commitment for employment, but we're hopeful that it's the start of a longer term relationship. And if you like, that as a nice little summary of how we're approaching both Kickstart, but also why we think enterprise and connecting are 2 of the 4 key themes. So I feel like I've been a bit of a smart so weaving comments in there, Jess. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you.
I think someone else trying to come in. Peter, did you unmute?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, go on. Hi.
Okay.
Ingrid?
Okay, hi. That sounds so interesting, and in fact, it's very much like what our idea was. We are a community benefit society in Oswestry, Shropshire, and we wanted to buy an old cinema and adjacent warehouse to make it a new community centre. Now the town councillors and Shropshire Council have decided that they want to prepare a master plan for Oswestry with a flagship building, which is being that partly financed by English Heritage. It's in the Heritage Action Zone scheme. And so they've decided to get a feasibility study on these 2 buildings without even telling us, even though they have had our presentation on it. We have an architectural feasibility study and all that. So what people said here in this breakout room about the council fully applies to Shropshire Council. So we are, again, a small group, and we have to in a way start again, but we've got lots of potential. Question to you: how many people were you in 2016, and how many are you now in the core group?
Think FC has pretty much been 2 people up to about 2018, and there's 3 or 4 active in the core Think FC. Coville Can, and yeah, I remember Dean and me first sketching out what we thought this could look like. Coville Can CBS is a board of 6 founding members that doesn't include me. We have a Facebook group of over 500 now, I think. We have a core group. We could probably get 20 to 30 volunteers with a quick ring around of people who would change their plans for us. Our support crew, people who've been happy to commit in writing and be quoted, is over 30 different people scattered around the country at the moment. So I would say that, you know, we've got the Kickstart crew, and then there's 2 people, probably 1 full-time equivalent actually in Think FC, and then the Kickstart crew. So I don't know if that's answered the question.
And how what is the population of Colville?
Oh heck, I should know that off the top of my head, shouldn't I? I'll come back to you on that one. I'm not quite sure. That'll be a quick. Someone's probably looking it up as I waffle on.
I've got it.
It's a town, but it's not a large town.
34,000.
Sorry?
34,575.
Thanks, Toby. I was guessing slightly less than that. So I'm glad Toby's given us the facts rather than me going off the top of my head. And it's Colville Strange because it was set up explicitly to be a mining town about 250 years ago. And so it's surrounded by long established villages. And so perhaps one of the most controversial parts is the name, because people in Thringston, Whitwick, and other villages are very strongly proud that they are not Colville. And so that's one of the elements that we've been weaving together as well. I think in terms of the council, just a quick sort of thought is we've deliberately never taken that the council said no, even when they have. We've always interpreted that as a not yet. And even when they've had plans to do something different than we have, we've just regarded that as another idea on the table, and we just have to have a better one. So the council often has felt it's made a decision, and I won't go into any details, but there's a number of clear decisions we've had that perhaps, shall we say, are not so clear now.
I think, Ian, that they've changed things quite a lot, haven't they? They keep moving the goalposts. These are the most moved goalposts ever, and I think you will all find that that's going to happen. But like Ian says, we never take it as a no. We just take it as a, well, maybe not yet, and we'll keep going. You know, if you keep going, they'll take you seriously eventually. At the moment, like you say, they're very old-fashioned and can't see any other vision except for the way they've got comfortable. Taking them out the comfort zone is just what they don't want. But we are sort of getting people now, aren't we, Ian, that are, oh, that's quite a good idea. Oh, I like that idea. But we know that we can't do that. So we are getting there. So you've just got to keep going. You've just got to keep going with that hammer and chipping away. And I think eventually, it may take quite a while yet, but eventually they'll start to see the benefits of having community spaces.
I think we've tried to take the line that if things haven't gone right, we're happy to say, you know, yep, that's not worked. And where things have gone well, we've been happy to share the success. So we've tried to sort of, you know, if the council want to come alongside us and say they were a part of the success, even though it may be through a little gritted teeth, we're happy to do that. I can't remember who someone said, but a quote that stays with me is, it's amazing what you can do if you're not worried who gets the credit.
You know, I work for a community arts company based in Colville, and
right.
So I've got very much a local interest. The buildings that Dina took us through earlier, that you're interested in. I wondered if you could tell us or tell me anything more about what your plans are to do with them, if you got them.
Okay, so very briefly, and more than delighted to carry the conversation off online and hopefully in person at some point, so the old market hall we would see is, and this is our current plan, it's to be shaped by the community and by the market, But our current plan is an events venue. And we've had a lot of interest in that idea. The co-op furniture store would be, we thought we were quite novel when we were talking about this 2 years ago. It now sounds like a cliche, but ground floor retail and community, but where we're able to offer flexible space, a bigger version of what Nikki's been doing at the Coal Bunker Cafe. The second floor would be enterprise and creativity. So that would be business startup, maybe co-working, maybe design companies. And the top floor would be some sort of accommodation. And the idea is creating a cooperative community in terms of ethos, not necessarily anything else. The Hermitage Leisure Centre would be an urban learning centre. So skateboard park in the swimming pool, parkour, working alongside local alternative education providers. The Bridge Road Superstore, if I'm being honest, I don't think that one will come off. I think that was a useful leverage for us for other conversations. So I won't go into that on this call. I'm happy to share the plans. They're all on our website and Facebook page. The Rex Cinema is just the front part because the rest of it isn't structurally secure. But the Art Deco frontage would be a pop-up cinema and wedding venue in an Art Deco cinema. And we've had 2 partners interested in exploring that. The Hermitage building is still owned by the charity. So of course we're respectful of them and have no plans for the building whatsoever. But if they are interested in selling, we've got a couple of thoughts for that one. The other one that sounds a little bonkers at this stage is the Ivanhoe line discussion, which is a current freight railway line where there's a lot of positive vibes around it reverting back to passenger usage. And we've been talking with the people involved about that being a community owned and run railway station, integrating into a bit of a bigger community building and maybe a low carbon transport hub on the site. So that's a quick canter. If I've not covered the building you had in mind, I'm happy to.
No, that's really interesting. Yeah, the Rex Cinema was that the one that was Dunelm?
Yes, sorry, yeah. And we've I won't go on to the call about the interesting dynamics with the owner of that property.
Right.
But the other key element that's not come out so explicitly is we're very interested in genuinely affordable housing as an ethical long-term landlord, and also being as low carbon and following the principles of the circular economy and donut economics. We've had some interesting conversations around district heat pumps. My crazy ambition is to make use of the old mine water and the old mine shafts around here to turn the mining industry into renewable energy locally with battery storage in mine shafts. But that's a whole other conversation that I won't indulge myself in at the moment.
Thank you.
Right, can I come in again?
Yeah, of course.
So you are a community benefit society.
Yes.
That means you have members. How many of those have you got? And if you want to work with all these buildings, you are going to issue shares, aren't you? I'm not quite sure, do you actually own these buildings now, or could you use them, or what is the situation there?
Okay, yeah, this is, if you like, the sizzles running slightly ahead of the sausage. Throwaway line that I used earlier. So the model we've got is at the moment, there's just the founding members of the CBS. We're hopeful soon to start doing our first community share launch, and we've got an application that's on pause with the Community Booster Share Scheme. So we're doing an initial offer, and we want to go to the wider membership as part of a share offer. And we have a 3-strand to our funding for the building. So our view is find the building, purchase the building, and then the long-term sustainability of the building is a separate model. And the idea is the CBS would be the nurturing organization, but each enterprise would end up owned by its own community enterprise who would be a member of the wider CBS, and the CBS would probably keep ownership of one of the buildings or running one building. Our funding would be a mix of grants where possible, for obvious reasons, though they do come with lots and lots and lots of strings, especially on the heritage side. A community share offer to prove to the local community that it's owned by them, and that would be the democratic community element. And then I'm quite relaxed about having a level of debt or loans in the mix, because I think that brings the managerial professional discipline, if you like, of it has to be viable. And one of our key principles in this is everything has to be viable as a model. So at the moment, the CBS only has the 6 founding members, but that's a conscious choice that we want to expand membership through a share offer and make that share offer as accessible as possible.
Ian, so earlier on that slide, there was mention of a community wealth fund.
Yeah.
Is that connected into this somehow?
Yeah, that the core idea there is that all of the profits or surplus or yield from the enterprises would be pooled into a community wealth fund, and that would then be the money we use to do the next project, and that would be decided by the membership. So one of the reasons we designed the Wicked spreadsheet was to have that mix of shares, grants and liability and loans integrated into our cash flow forecast, but also to show what we thought the running costs would be of each venture. So if you take the old market building as an events venue, once we've got that in a fit state, most of the activity there wouldn't be run by us, it would be run by people hiring the space. And we would expect to generate a reasonable surplus from that. And that then would then go into the community wealth fund, which would be spent as the members decided for the next project. And that could be one of the buildings we've talked about, because one of the things we're keen of is to develop a significant fund to be able to react quickly if key buildings come up, because we can't move at the pace of private investors.
Yeah.
So the idea of the community wealth fund is explicitly to say the profits generated by being a landlord will be spent as the community decides, either for regeneration or to support a significant community project.
That's I'm really excited by that, because that's a piece of work that I've been doing a lot of around in Hastings.
Oh, right.
Around a thing, what we've been calling it, just to keep it vague, we've been calling it a neighbourhood investment mechanism. That's not what it will be called. It's some kind of mechanism that can invest in neighbourhood.
Yeah.
And the idea is to try and create something that works in Hastings, but also to have an eye very strongly right from the start on a solidarity version between neighbourhoods around the country, where there are organisations like yourselves who are ambitious, who are taking on or already have a whole portfolio of buildings, and to be able to support each other with that track record question. Because, you know, we over the last 5 years, we've taken now 7,000 square metres of building into community ownership. We develop them, we have track record. We can kind of share that out in some solidarity process. And so we're investigating this right now. And I'd love to know, is it you within Coalville Can, or is there someone else that's really interested in that financial side?
At that finance side, in terms of the Wicked spreadsheet, that's been Dina and the Co-op Assistance Network. Interest in concepts and in the ideas, then that's me.
If I send you the discussion report that we've got so far, I mean, it's very much emerging. It's not like finished by any means, but I'll send
that would be brilliant. The other interesting area I'm interested in is how we can use the pension schemes, and that to me is really an underdeveloped area where I think if a lot of people, maybe, I mean, this is a relative term, enough people would be willing to invest their pensions in a pension scheme that had some sort of significant community payback and ownership. And I don't know, and I know the private profit sector are right on top of this, and we're not. The other interesting area is there a link with community shares and that? That's an area I'm interested in, but I'm definitely not knowledgeable. I'm excited by the prospect.
Yeah, well, I was 4 months ago. I was in exactly that same position as you, and I've spent the last 4 months doing 90-minute interviews with about 25 different experts, and like, having my head blown off by trying to get into the bottom of it. So that's why hopefully it'll be a useful sort of research report for you.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think it was Nassim earlier who said it's about the relationships and finding the people who are doing cool stuff we can match up with. But I think there is so much potential, and my big bugbear is that we don't end up limiting the ambition. I know we see the community side as being too much what we're doing, so every venture has to be purely for the benefit of the community. I would happily have a commercial enterprise in there paying a high street rent, but we keep the profits and put it back in the community. And I think sometimes we've been too cautious about everything we do has to have an immediate direct community benefit. We don't focus on building up the capital enough.
Mhm.
That's me.
Can I just say, the Triodos Bank in Bristol, they had this scheme, community borrowing scheme. And in the 90s, we used that to finance school. And is that still something that is working, or has this been replaced by crowdfunding?
Triodos is still going as a social lender, so they do social investments. I don't think they've got any grant fund, but they do run all kinds of social investment.
Yes, I know, but just this scheme was very successful. That because we as a community borrowed, I don't know how many thousand, and we individuals committed to so much payback. So I personally paid £40 a month to pay back that debt, and other people paid 20 or 100 or 200, and so the sum of all these individuals paid back the whole load, and that really connected you to the whole scheme. That was great.
I think there's some interesting projects, and I know I was part of the Leicester local access bid that wasn't successful, but was incredible learning. And we visited Bristol, and there's some interesting work happening in Bristol around community investment and social investment and local currencies. My hesitation is this is me rushing ahead. Once we've got a couple of buildings that are working well, then I'm looking forward to being part of how we can be democratic, making more democratic access to money for investment. At the moment, I don't want us to be running further ahead, but it's a really interesting area. I just want to say, I think we're going to get chucked out in a couple of minutes. So I want to open it up for anyone else who's not spoken, but hopefully, as you've picked up, we're very open to any conversation and exploring things. We're keen to share our learning and even more keen to learn more. So I just wanted to throw it open to anyone else who wanted to add anything before we get returned to the main room.